Hello, everybody, and welcome in to the World Center of Racing, Daytona International Speedway, where tonight we kick off the road to the first annual PGR 500. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Tonight, you are watching Austin Green alongside co-host Dawson Wise. Well, Dawson, we have been waiting all year for this event, and the time is now. Drivers getting ready to kick off the first of the qualifying races to make their way into the PGR 500.
Yeah, what a lead-up it's been to this event over the past few weeks, really the past few months since we started to go through the details of this one. And we've all been anticipating it. Obviously, you know, it feels like the days have gone slower leading up to this moment, but we're finally here. There are cars on track. We're qualifying for the first time. We'll get into why that's important here in a minute. It's time for PGR's biggest week ever, and I can't think of a better way to start it than with a thrilling first heat race. Some big names in this one, some big names in the second one. We're getting the week off to a perfect start on the road to the PGR 500.
Absolutely. Some big names, and really all of them excited to see what these guys can do in these next gens here at this 2.5-mile super speedway. Now, they are currently doing qualifying, and that's another topic we need to talk about because we know that there is a prime pole position award. Out of all these heat races, drivers will have the chance to complete a 2-lap qualifying effort, and the driver that puts down the fastest lap not only going to start on the front row of the feature, but also going to win $100. The second fastest lap will also guarantee themselves into the feature, and will start on the front row for that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. A very unique format here in the PGR 500 as we get set to start to set the field, if you will, in terms of the qualifying efforts of these guys over the next few days. And as they do down in Daytona Beach, and as they will do here in a few weeks as NASCAR kicks its season off with their Super Bowl in Daytona, we're going to do the same. We're going to lock in two guys. Guys have been practicing qualifying. They have been running laps for over a week. Day in, day out, for hours at a time, trying to master this art because they know how important it is and how much of a weight off their shoulders it would be if they're able to lock their way into this race and kind of not really kick their feet up. You obviously have to try to build yourself some momentum going into Sunday afternoon. But you can definitely make your life a little bit easier, not have to stress these opening races, and simply use these as reps, basically game time reps, to get into the PGR 500 flow and get into your own rhythm going into Sunday afternoon. It's a very unique system. We're bringing it in here. First lap's going on the board so far, and they're pretty competitive down towards that 49.1 second range.
Yeah, qualifying's the first focus. After that, you got to turn your attention to the actual heat race itself. Here's the breakdown of the format. The top 5 drivers in each heat will advance themselves straight to the VRX Simulator's Duels, which will take place on Saturday in the afternoon. If you can't finish top 5, you have to aim for 6th through 13th place. That'll advance you to the Last Chance Qualifiers, which will be early Saturday afternoon. So we'll be looking forward to those. But Dawson, if you don't finish top 13 in your heat race here tonight, you are done. You are going home, and the first annual PGR 500 and a chance to win it will go to waste.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Again, another unique thing about these week-long events, a lot of entries, over 200 in this field, 240 to be exact over the next 3 days. And because of that, we're going to have to send some people home. It's going to make the desperation higher. If you'll remember back to the July race, the SummerSlam 499, some of the desperation, the Hail Mary moments we saw for guys to drive their way into that race, and the insane drives through wrecks on the last lap, and just putting yourself in the right position. My mind takes me back to Michael Triscaro's drive in the Last Chance Qualifier race, where he comes from the mid-20s and makes his way into the race in the dying moments, the dying feet of the front stretch. He somehow, someway finds enough positions to make his way in. That's the kind of things you have to do to make a race like this. Either put yourself up front in a position to make your life a little easier come Saturday, or you have to throw those desperation moves. You have to, race it a little less abandoned, put yourself in one of those Last Chance Qualifier positions and give yourself a chance come those races early Saturday.
Absolutely, and don't forget what these guys are all ultimately racing for. The prize purse, $7,200 for the PGR 500. That's $2,000 to the winner with $1,000 to the runner-up. Trophies to all of the top 3, and the trophy for first is massive. And of course, the bragging rights that comes with being a PGR 500 champion. Well, guess what? It's just about that time we've been waiting for. Qualifying looks to be officially wrapping up. And so here in just about 30 seconds or so, we will be making our way down trackside, getting into the starting grid, and getting ready to get this race rolling. Before we do that, Dawson, any last things you want to add before we get under heat race number 1 here tonight?
No, it's just such an exciting time to be here in PGR eSports, and I could not be more grateful to be a part of this week as we get rolling, as you hear our voices more and we get kind of deeper into this thing, into the weeds of who's going to make it, who's going to go home, the storylines. I do want to take a second, reflect on how grateful I am to be a part of this, even just a small part up here on the microphone. It's going to be a fun week. We've all anticipated it for a long time. It's finally here. Let's get down trackside.
It certainly is. So without further ado, let's get right down trackside and get things kicked off here tonight with your Heat Race 1 starting grid. How about taking pole position for NBG Motorsports? It's the 5-car entry of Matthew Baker. He'll have Eugene Mozganov starting on his outside in second, with John Ellis Jr. back in the third spot. Rounding out row number 2 is going to be the Super Speedway qualifying ace of Benjamin White. You knew he was going to be a threat in qualifying. He'll have himself on a good starting spot here tonight. Dylan Jones rolls off from 5th. Evan Carlbon for the Jack Shack to his outside in 6th. And then it'll be Cade McClenny back in the 7th spot. Michael Sturgill in the 8th spot with Brian Henning's 9th. And Johnny Shade rounds out your top 10.
Row 6 of this opening heat race will see Team PGR's Brock Westmoreland alongside Nicholas Martinez in the 48 machine. Row 7, Sean Hilkowicz alongside Corey Moore in the 42. Row 8, Tyler Vickery in the 124. He'll roll from 15th with Landon Tilley to his outside. Labeled the 635, it'll be the 99 aboard that machine. On your screen, it'll be the 635 on your timing and scoring. Row 9, John Darnell in the 99 will roll from 17th. Kyle Urbanik will roll from 18th on the outside of that row. And rounding at the top 20 in 19th, Matthew Taylor in the 44 and Aaron Roth in the 57.
How about Evan Schilling? He'll start 21st here tonight. Kyle Shelton and that 1-2-1 entry, he'll start 22nd. It's going to be Garrett Caswell in the 88 back in 23rd with Luis Rios rounding out row number 12. Back in row 13 here tonight. Starting the 25th spot, it's going to be Keaton Swain with Justin May to his outside in 26. Mark Vondell will start in 27th. It's going to be Matthew Dula to his outside in 28th. Francisco Villarreal 29th. And Devin Lyons rounding out your 30-car heat race for heat race number 1. By the way, we do have 2 of these here tonight, so stick around. If your driver will be coming up in heat number 2, we'll list that later on, depending on how cautions fall in this heat. Next up, let's take a look at your race info. The breakdown for this heat going to be the same through all of them, and that format is 30 laps. These guys have 100% fuel, so they will not have to worry about pitting. Unlimited tires, so if you get in a wreck, you slide, you want to go take a new set of Goodyears, by all means go and do it. But besides that, no real reason to pit. You do have a fast repair in your back pocket, so if you get in a wreck, your race is not completely done. Fixed setups, and then we do have one green-white checker. Dawson, there was some debate if these guys were going to let it run out on that one green-white checker to throw the caution, so it'll be interesting to see what they decided on that. But how about Daytona International Speedway? Just under 2.5 miles in length. 74 degrees going to be the starting track temp here tonight. Over 30 degrees of banking in the corners. And the long straightaways allow for a lot of pushing and shoving. This next gen really kind of signatures that. And I think we're going to see a lot of aggressive pushing, especially at the end of this heat here tonight.
Yeah, can't help but get a chill down your spine as well. One of the most famous venues in all of racing plays host to the biggest race in PGR eSports history, and just such a legendary venue. So much history here, and now more about to be made this week. You can tell the anticipation. I know the feeling as a driver. This is the longest parade lap of your life. These opening laps are so stressful in an event like this, and I know these guys are all feeling it inside the cockpit.
They certainly are. By the way, Heat Race 1 here tonight, sponsored by Alive and Running of Iowa. We'll talk some more about them as well as we go through this heat, but here we go. We have been waiting a while for it, and the time is now. The road to be crowned a PGR 500 champion begins here tonight. Pace car going to make the left turn into the restart zone. We go. Green flag is in the air. We're racing at Daytona.
A pretty good start for both lanes here. Baker getting shoved by the Super Speedway ace John Ellis on the outside. It's Benjamin White along the backside of Eugene Mozganov, the Ryko Ford Mustang. Evan Carlbon in line third, and line up top, it's Dylan Jones. It's a who's who pretty much of Super Speedway racing. Up here at the front of the field, it's Baker to the lead on the Daytona Super Stretch. Is the outside not yet coming down to side draft? And I wondered about this, Austin. I wondered how aggressive they'd be in the side draft. So far, no such thing. 3 clear. Make it 4 on the bottom. Back to, I believe, that would be the 0-5. Can't exactly tell who's in that car. It's Cade McClenny.
And notice what they did. They jumped right up to the top of the racetrack, not going to spend any time sticking around down low. You take the guys that you know push with you well, and you try to get up by the wall. That's really the preferred line here in these next-gen cars. But this is what you got to be careful of. If you get split, a guy gets to your right quarter panel, it could send you back. And you already saw the 25 there, Stephen Miles. He gave it a thought, quickly thought better of it. Excuse me, that was Eugene Mozganoff, used to seeing Stephen in the 24 machine. But either way, keep an eye for guys to try to take advantage and jump to that third lane, especially as we get to the end of these 30 laps.
Well, I'll tell you what Matthew Baker did right there, and it's exactly what I thought he was going to do. He brings that line down to side draft. Mozganov's not having it. He's going right to the right rear quarter panel. A very avid move, and maybe a guy that's not willing to sit and let these guys side draft and ride in line. He's going to try to take advantage. He might do it again right here on John Ellis. Nope, going to stay in line that time. Now, maybe Mozganov understanding the assignment a little bit here, and that's to drag that bottom line back. McClenny, Hennings, Westmoreland, that's a pair of teammates. They've got another teammate with them, Tyler Vickery, another one of the normal money racing teams, if you will. Team PGR lined up 2, 3, 4 on that inside line, and now that top line begins to roll again, led again by Matthew Baker, a man I expected to be very strong at the start of this thing.
And I was curious about how the third lane would do if you decided to make the third lane the middle line. We've got a couple drivers here further back trying to make something happen. As, ooh, man, that was a big move to the inside, even further back. But either way, you've got about a 3-car line trying to get lined up here. A couple drivers that have been on the move, though, towards the front. Up 5 positions. How about Cade McClenley? He now finds himself in that second spot as these cars are rocketing over 195 miles an hour as they work through the tri-oval here to complete lap 4.
It's about as tame as I expected it to be 4 laps in. I kind of expected some jitters, maybe some struggles early from some of these guys, but so far so good. Bottom line now going to get some side draft again. Matthew Baker, John Ellis bring that top line down to meet the bottom line, trying to drag the air along the right side of that 05 car and push that lane backwards and stop that momentum that you'll see them get right here down the backstretch. And look, Brian Hennings over the past week, including in last night's event that I was in the booth with Landon Velicki for, Brian Hennings is one of the best pushers that I saw over the course of the 60 laps last night, and so far living up to the name. Second in line on the bottom side. Some more big movers. Tyler Vickery +7 into the 8th position. John Darnell +7 into the 10th position, a little further back on that inside, that multicolored machine right in behind Vickery. Guys starting to challenge for those dual transfer spots, and they don't want to ride around. They see the opportunity now. They saw a gap. They took it. They'd rather be up front controlling their own destiny come to the end of this thing.
And there's so many tough decisions to make as a driver. Don't forget, we didn't mention this yet, but it's $60 to win the heat race. So, I mean, you figure you get the victory in this, Dawson, you've already made your money back to enter the PGR 500, but at the same time, you don't want to let over-aggression cost you the opportunity to advance straight to the duels, or at worst-case scenario, advance to the LCQs further back. I would keep an eye on this 30 car. He's been trying to make some progress towards the front. He's been able to get a little bit of help here and there, and when he does, he's made good work of it. By the way, if you're curious who that is, that's one of the new guys that we have not seen before. Sean Hillquicks, right now, sitting in that 17th spot. He's down 4 from where he qualified in this heat at. But again, look at this. He's starting to draw a bit of a crowd now. No longer the leader. Well, watch out. That's a big checkup. Can they all hold on to it as they work into turn 1? Yes, they do.
It looked like an offset push there onto the back of Evan Karlbahn by Michael Sturgill in that black and yellow number 3 Chevrolet. And unfortunately, that's going to kill most of the momentum that middle line had. And Evan Karlbahn going to be the big loser here. He's going backwards. They're trying to get it going, but just nothing in the way of forward momentum right now. These guys up front have handled this race pretty well. Move to the bottom. That's one of the first from the leaders. Ben White in the 50. The Mobil 1 Toyota Camry jumps down on the bumper of Cade McClenny. It's one of the first big moves we've seen from the top 4 or 5 cars. And it comes from the Ben White machine. Mozganov as well. He got split a second ago. Kind of gets lucky that Karlbahn gets stuck in the middle and the line came back to him, or he would have been going backwards as well. Karlbahn, ooh, big aggressive move behind Brian Hennings. He's found a spot in line just outside the top 10. Now breaks back in position number 9.
And right now, up front, a little bit of a gap here on the outside. This might allow the inside roll. Baker and John Ellis Jr. looking down for a bit of a side draft here as they work down the super stretch. But man, for Benjamin White, one of the College Series aces, he knows how to get it done at these super speedways. And look at the push out back from the 05. That's Cade McClenny trying everything he can to get Benjamin White clear to jump up in front of the 5 of Baker. No luck yet, but he'll continue to push as they work off of turn 4.
Still 2x2 for the most part out back. Nicholas Martinez started to move to the middle, but now his help will start to go backwards, unfortunately, right there. And so both those cars, with Corey Moore was the other one, are going the wrong way in a hurry in the middle for the most part, though. It's about 8 rows of 2 wide, and Matthew Baker, pretty stress-free evening so far, but not for long. Ben White alongside him, and for the first time,
out back. One car hard into the outside wall. It's the 57 now sliding through the grass. That's Aaron Roth. Another one in the grass. That's the 24 machine. Trying to figure out how this one got sparked up. And that's big damage as well to Kyle Shelton in the 121 car. That left front not rolling. That's not good news for him. He's going to have to go in and take his fast repair. But just as you were talking there, Dawson, as they worked into turn one, I saw the car look like got into the outside wall. Couldn't tell exactly who it was. And I panned the camera.
Tilly in the 99.
There you go. I was going to say, and then I panned the camera back, and next thing you know, they were piling them up. So we'll have to go back here and break down exactly where things all went wrong. And for Landon Tilley here, trying to figure out how much damage he's got. That's one of the nightmare entries for this event. And yeah, you can see, seems to be pretty clean. I don't see much damage anywhere on that race car, but here we go. Let's go back and look, see what sparks this one. As up top, sure enough, the pink and black machine, the 99 car, as Dawson pointed out, Landon Tilley, going to be the first one to get sucked up into the outside wall. Now, we saw this here, Dawson, in a lot of the practice races throughout the week. Drivers, when they were running right up alongside that outside safer barrier, it was really easy to get sucked into the outside wall, and that's exactly what happens. As he does so, that scrubs a lot of speed off of the race car. Aaron Roth gets into the wall as well, and now it's starting to create a bit of a stack up. The 57 tries to go low right at the same time. You got the 90 car arriving on scene. That's Justin May, nowhere to go, and that gets the 57 turned around, and from there it's on. The 57 back hard up into the outside wall. Aaron Roth collects the 121, Kyle Shelton, who had nowhere to go. And as he slides down here, lucky that he didn't get down into the 24, who was riding low, and it looked like was able to miss the brunt of this one.
Yeah, tough break there for everyone involved. I think if you're the 90 of Justin May, those two guys get in the wall and you think, oh, maybe they're going to keep it up there and not hang a left off the wall. And unfortunately for May, they do hang the left off the wall, and he's there. Nothing he can really do. I mean, number one, he's already kind of on scene like you mentioned, but number two, these cars don't really like to stop, at least not in a hurry. There's not much in terms of avoidance you can do there. So for Justin May, an unfortunate deal. And then for Tilley and Roth, they kind of get sucked into the wall again, something we saw a lot last week. And I don't know if it's nerves, maybe. They were only too wide. I'm not sure if it's something mental, kind of looking up in front of you, and then all of a sudden you're kind of brushing off the outside wall, but something goes on right there. An unfortunate deal for all involved, and it's our first incident of PGR 500 week. Luckily, though, could have been a lot bigger, I think, than it was, and it's only about a 3-car incident in the back of the field.
Yeah, and I will say, I feel like we kind of wondered when first blood was going to strike. I mean, you can't go 30 laps, 2 and 3 wide for the most part without at least some sort of an incident, and just an unfortunate break. But again, the good news, they have the fast repair, so it's not over for anybody, at least not yet. Go and take that fast repair. You're going to have a lot of work to do to try to get back to the front with the laps that we're going to have remaining. But again, we've seen crazier things happen. These heats can get really wild, especially as we start to wind down towards the end of the race. Still 21 laps to go, though, so we'll have to see what happens back towards the back. Meanwhile, at the front, how about leading the way? Benjamin White in the 50 car has himself up 3 spots from where he qualified at. Matthew Baker still a solid run going as he currently rolls in a 2nd position. John Lewis Jr. back in 3rd with Cade McClenny back in the 4th spot. Eugene Mozganov currently rounding out the top 5. Brian Henning 6th, good run for him so far. Johnny Shade 7th. Evan Carlbon 8th. Garrett Caswell 9th, but Brock Westmoreland rounding out the top 10. And the last 3 transfer positions to move on to the next round as it stands is Dylan Jones, Tyler Vickery, and Sean Hilkowicz. So right now, those 3 drivers kind of in a bit of a stressful scenario. They need to keep trying to go to the front. And you know that everybody else on behind them is going to be trying even harder to get to the front, knowing that we're only going to have about 19 laps to go when the green comes back out.
Yeah, not a ton of surprises here at the front of the field. Obviously, you talk about Ben White, and so good in qualifying, but good in the race as well. A guy that makes very big, very bold moves. It's worked for him so far. Matthew Baker, of course, we know what he brings to the table and his pedigree in super speedway racing. Same with John Ellis and Cade McClenny, a Contender Series driver. Obviously, he brings a lot of skill, especially on these kinds of tracks to the table. You have to reach that level. You got to be very diverse in your talents. Brian Hennings already talked about. Same with Eugene Mozganov. So not a ton of surprises here at the front. I think the biggest one to me, as the guy running 20th right now, Matthew Dula. This is a guy that's run these 500-mile events for a while now. The last several years, he's attempted a lot of them, and he's made the feature in a lot of them. A guy very apt, very keen on what exactly to do to make his way into a position to make this race. Now, there's a long way to go, but for right now, I'm a little bit surprised he hasn't made more of an impact here at the front. I expect we'll be seeing the Dula Light Ford Mustang Dark Horse coming to the front here very shortly.
Absolutely. And by the way, we mentioned the sponsor of tonight's heat race number 1, Alive and Running of Iowa, and Ambrose Kniebel, a big part of that corporation. It's actually a charity that helps raise awareness for suicide prevention. And Ambrose doing something a little special here tonight. Said that Blind Squirrel Racing will match any total donations that go to Alive and Running. So if you're interested in donating, scan that QR code on your screen. And again, that will take you to a Venmo link that will allow you to donate to Alive and Running of Iowa. So again, big thank you to Blind Squirrel Racing and of course, Alive and Running Iowa for the sponsor of Heat Race 1 here tonight. All right. Well, it's going to officially be 19 laps to go here, Dawson. Is it go time yet? And, I think the other thing that you got to think about with these heat races is we say go time, but for the guys at the front, it's sit here and try to help each other out. They're not going to go anywhere, especially if they're in a position to advance straight to the duels. They're going to try to just stay in the top 5.
Well, it's kind of worked out where, these guys towards the front, at least several of them, kind of know each other already, like Ben White and Matthew Baker and John Ellis and McClenny and Mozganov. They've raced around each other a lot, even outside of the super speedway scene. So kind of guys that are familiar with one another that, are kind of on the same wavelength, trying to protect each other here in the early stages of the race. The guys behind them, though, a much different story. Green flag going to come back in the air. Here we go. Ben White fires off from the bottom line, and away we go towards the banking of turn number 1. It's a great start for White. It's not as good a start for Baker, but he's got more help. White's going to jump on his nose. No, he's not. Going to drop back down. Quick, big, bold move, just like I talked about with the 50 car.
Yeah, and the big moves early right here, especially on restarts, is really everybody just trying to figure out where they want to go. It seems like a lot of times the idea is get to this outside line. We do have a relatively cool track temp, though, as, man, outside almost got up into the safer barrier. But either way, Dawson, relatively cool track temp. Thought maybe this inside would do a little better than it is right now as Benjamin White continues to fall into turn 3.
Well, yeah, Ben White dropped back down. I think it forced Ellis to jump on the brakes, and it's taken him a little bit longer to start to wind that row up. Now here they come. Huge run for Ben White here on the exit of turn number 4. He'll pull even with the NBG Motorsports Chevrolet of Matthew Baker, and as such, here comes the side draft. 5 car down on the door. White's going to get to the lead. Will he get clear? Yes, he will. He has a chance now to jump on the nose. He's going to bring John Ellis with him. They may both bring Eugene Mozganov. Power move by the bottom, and White's going to get hung out to dry. How about John Ellis in the top side going to the point?
John Ellis Jr., he doesn't race as much as he used to, but anytime he's out here, he is going to be a contender to win. Watch out, stacking up on the inside here. A couple cars have to split to the middle. They all hold it together, still 2x2 down the super stretch. Up front, though, John Ellis Jr. trying to create a little bit of a breakaway here with Eugene Mozganov and Matthew Baker, who was your pole sitter here tonight. So who knows, Dawson? He may already have locked himself in a feature. We won't know until after the last heat race concludes. But either way, we're going to be coming to 17 laps to go, and I'm starting to see more guys shuffling inside and outside, trying to find any line that's got a run, and Baker's going to take a run here on the inside.
Yeah, he saw Brian Hennings do it in turns 3 and 4 and said, I want a part of that too. Here comes Baker, Hennings, White. They are almost triple tandem into one. Baker back to the point. Really good racing up front right now, but how much is too much? If you're the race leaders in the top 5, Baker, bottom to top. He's going to go to the point and jump on the bumper of John Ellis Jr. It'll leave Hennings, White, Johnny Shade, Garrett Caswell, Sean Hilkowicz to lead the inside. Michael Sturgill tags along as well, as all of those guys now are in a transfer position. A few of them weren't just a lap ago. Man, look at how hard Ben White is pushing on the back of Brian Hennings as he tries to get the lead side by side. They're going to drag race back to the line. 16 to go.
Yeah, and further back, I was watching a couple cars that are trying to get this middle line working, but it just has not happened yet. Dylan Jones is one of the guys that's really trying to go with anybody that wants to go to the front, and he just can't seem to find a dancing partner, at least not yet. You can see Dylan Jones, though, right now in that all-white number 28 car, trying to work with Matthew Dula, another phenomenal super speedway driver. Would not be shocked to see those two lock themselves into the duels here tonight, but they still have a lot of work ahead of them here as we'll be coming to 15 laps to go next time. Meanwhile, back up front, Matthew Baker, John Ellis Jr., and Eugene Mozganov continue to lead the field here at Daytona. Brian Hennings trying to make a run back with Benjamin White on the bottom. And how about the VRX Simulators driver, Brian Hennings, trying to go to the point off of turn 4.
Yeah, Brian Hennings, again, has had a really great couple of weeks. He's had a great session of prep. Oh, man, a huge blink there for Ben White's going to kind of kill some of that momentum on the bottom side. They'll have to get it rewound, but they will here going onto the banking of turn number 1. But back to Hennings, a guy who's had a really great prep time, if you will, for this 500. A guy that has been up front every time this car makes its way into a race that Brian Hennings is in the field. He's a great pusher. He can lead a line. He can make the right moves at the right time. And Boy, right now, I'll tell you, he's done that all night. He's been in the top 5 the majority of this first heat race. He may go to the point out back. Dylan Jones to the middle. He's going to try to make something happen in that all-white Ford Mustang. He had some help from behind. It looked like Matt Dula and a couple other cars are starting to move to the middle. The jockeying around that final transfer position starting to get even more hectic. Back there on Tyler Vickery, Sean Hilkowicz, Dylan Jones. Boy, that battle's only going to get hotter on from here.
And that's Kyler Bannock in the middle right now, trying to work with Dylan Jones, and that help didn't last for too long. Dylan Jones has since bailed back to the inside line. It's just him in the 44. Now stuck in the middle. That's Matthew Taylor, by the way, in the 44 machine. So Dylan Jones starts to climb back to the front, but still no sustained 3 wide. All it's really been is a couple of stragglers in the back trying to make something happen. The sustained 2 wide, though, up front has continued, but it has been all this outside. It almost seems like the chemistry now between the top 3 on the outside, Matthew Baker, John Ellis Jr., Eugene Mozganov, is at such a point where I don't even know if they'd make a move on each other at this rate. They might as well just stay and push because they continue to show dominance up top.
Well, they won't have to at this rate either, because at the rate the race is going, the bottom line's not ever going to get close enough to contend, and those 3 will be able to race their way right into Saturday's duel race if they just continue on doing exactly what they're doing. Now, you cannot expect that to remain the case. Obviously, still a long ways to go, and now that bottom gets a little more advanced. Ben White got a much better push that time, a better connection on the bottom side, and it gets Hennings alongside for the lead. Stacking up a little bit out back around Garrett Caswell. That bottom line, though, now has found a little bit of something. I thought they did, but man, that top side 4 deep is pushing really hard from Baker back to McClenny. Even now Carl Bond getting involved in the action as well in the Hotspot Chevrolet. And Hennings, look at this. I mean, you're going to see him get pushed backwards. Maybe not. This time they hold tough, bottom line alongside as the jockeying continues. 6, 7, 8 rows deep in the field.
We are now officially just 12 laps away from the conclusion of heat race number 1 here at Daytona. And at what point, Dawson, if you're one of these drivers that's right around that final transfer position to get into the duels, do you decide to either crank up the intensity or maybe try to back off and just secure a spot into the LCQ? I mean, I know you got to be aggressive, but again, one mistake at the end could end your chances completely. How do you balance that as we're going to be coming to almost 10 laps to go here in just a couple laps?
If you're one of the guys here that's outside the top 5 but still in a transfer spot, I mean, obviously you would like to get right in the duels, and you don't have to win the race to do that. So maybe you try again, push a couple more runs to try to get inside the top 5, like a Hennings or a Johnny Shade or even a Garrett Caswell. If you're one of the guys outside the field altogether from 14th on back right now, you got to start communicating, start getting with the guys around you and saying, look, this is not going to work. None of us are going to make it in if we just continue to sit and ride. We have to try something, and so far, it's been back around that Matt Dula area, the Francisco Villarreal area, that those guys are starting to get a little bit more impatient now, trying to come forward into positions where they can make it into the LCQ race, and Matt Dula is one of them. The Dula Light Dark Horse goes to the middle, and he's got some help, and all of a sudden, the aggression is really kicking up. Oh man, Ben White and Evan Carlbon having a moment there in the 3.
And Baker, you can tell he's nervous up front because he knows that he needs to side draft the inside to hold him at bay, but he's so worried that if he gets split, he could drop all the way to the back. So he's putting a lot of trust right now in that 21 car of John Ellis Jr., and it's working out great for the duo right now. But you wonder if this is the last lap. How does that change? Does Baker go down? And if he does, will John Ellis Jr. follow? That's going to be the big question to answer, as I did want to make note further back, just behind this group, we've got about a trio of cars that's about 6 seconds back. Luis Rios, Kyle Shelton, and Keaton Swain. Those 3 are going to need a caution, or their chances of making it further in the road to the PGR 500 will be over. Going to be coming to 9 laps. Go, watch out.
One car in the outside retaining wall. It's the purple and green entry. I can't see a number. The green flag's going to stay out, but that
Kyle
car
Urbanek
has sustained major damage.
Yeah, Kyle Urbanek. Man, big damage. That right front is destroyed. He's going to bring it down to the apron here and try to limp it around, and that right front is completely ripped off, so he'll have to take a fast repair. That'll add another driver that's going to need a caution, but you said it. We stay green, so we'll turn it right back up front. Still on the point, Matthew Baker, but now the 3 wide is starting to make its way closer and closer to the front. Brock Westmoreland lining up for another push here on John Ellis Jr. And how about the 45 of Johnny Shade trying to push Brian Hennings to the lead?
Oh, man, look at Hennings trying to play Pied Piper. Which line's going to move? It's the top. Now it's the middle. Now he goes back to the bottom. Hennings all over the place. Look at Ben White, a big move. McClenny blocks. White bottom to top. Now McClenny kind of in no man's land, waiting for the push from John Ellis Jr., the Sim Seats Mustang. He'll get it here on the exit of turn number 4. Cade McClenny, the 0-5, a power move to the point. 8 laps to go, and this race is suddenly kicked into high gear. Volume 11, if you will. Hennings trying to look to the middle now. He looks for a gap. Nobody home. Johnny Shade looks for a gap. He'll get up top. Guys jockeying all over the racetrack as McClenny goes all the way to the point and one.
And man, this is just a small sample of what we're going to see Sunday in the feature, but I'll tell you what, Dawson, they can't keep doing this. Further back, the runs are getting bigger, the moves are getting bolder, and at some point, somebody's going to make a mistake, and it could pile up in the big one. So this is the time. Get to the front, get away from the chaos, try to get out in front of it, as we're going to be coming to 7 laps to go. Watch out, John Ellis Jr. got himself hung out, but Hennings cuts him a massive break. He may have just saved John Ellis Jr.'s chances, and they'll line things back up. The bottom's going to try to make a resurgence, but it is still all Matthew Baker working with Eugene Mozganov on the high side.
Yeah, but bottom side coming again. A big tandem push from John Ellis to McClenny. McClenny will get clear. Ellis will get clear. Hennings trying to come along with him in that green and silver 74. It's going to be those two that get clear. They're going to stay on the bottom. Hennings now can go up if he chooses. Garrett Caswell, how about the 777 all the way to the front? He's now 4th. Ellis and Hennings tandem up there on the outside around Cade McClenny. McClenny now into the push of Garrett Caswell. Oh, man, that was a big push. McClenny saves it. Dylan Jones now on the bottom. And a couple more cars out back. Villarreal, Baker to the middle. Big move for the NBG entry. He'll try to get down to the bottom. And that's what you talked about. Baker gets hung out. He's in no man's land, headed backwards.
Watch out. Almost trouble out back. They're still trying to save it. They're going to go 3, almost 4 wide. But it looks like everybody holds on, and you said it for Matthew Baker. The one thing he did not want to see happen. It looks like he was able to recover, though, and still keep it inside the top 10, so he's okay for the moment. But with just 6 laps to go, he's going to have to make a pretty quick recovery. Meanwhile, back at the front, the 05, Cade McClenny. We have been calling his number all night so far here in Heat Race 1, and he finds himself right back on the point. John Ellis Jr. on the outside. Matthew Baker, he's ready to take another shot at it. He'll go to the middle, and yet again, no help for the 5 car. He'll fall back some more as John Ellis Jr. going to duck down with Brian Hennings now for a side draft through 3 and 4.
Oh, but that bottom is so well connected, but they can't get set up. They can't get lined up right. Man, they had a perfect opportunity there to clear 1, maybe 2, maybe even 3 cars, and couldn't get the job done. They could not get set up. Big move, bottom side. Here comes Brian Hennings. To the bumper of Cade McClenny goes to the 74. He's not satisfied. As much as I would have said, oh, stay in line and just ride and push, and maybe you'll make it in. He says, no, sir. I want to win, and I want to go to victory lane. He drops down on McClenny's bumper. Now back to jockeying. He's gotten a little bit tamer back around that transfer spot, currently held by Matthew Baker in 13th. The final man currently in to the race. Now it's Justin May in 13th. Ben White says, nope, no more status quo. I'm going to the bottom onto the bumper of Hennings, and the racing up front gets interesting again. Huge push bottom. Here comes the Mobil 1 Camry.
Well, it's the calm before the storm, and what you've already seen a couple times, John Ellis Jr. and Matthew Baker, is that these guys have tried a couple of blocks, and if it's close, they have not risked it. Don't want to get themselves turned and out of it. But as we come to the last couple laps, I think if you're the lead pusher in either line right here, Dawson, you got to start to decide, what are you going to do? Are you planning to make a move on that last lap, or are you planning on pushing? If you're going to push, you got to start to save some temps now, because you want to be able to push the entirety of that last lap. Watch out up top. Matthew Baker finds some room on the outside, and he's going to make it work. He's got some help out back, and he's going to try to see if he can maybe get back to the front here with just 4 laps to go.
Oh, man, Dula and Carlbahn got a tough end of the stick there. They go all the way backwards, and now they have serious work to do with only 4 laps to go. Look out on the outside. One car, it was Corey Moore, tried to get there. Mozganov and Ellis, they realize that they jump back up. That's going to allow the top 2 on the bottom to go back to the safer barrier. White and Hennings to the lead. 3 laps to go. They push up top, but here comes the bottom. Cade McClenny, Garrett Caswell, Dylan Jones, Francisco Villarreal, a couple more cars out back. Justin May, remember he got involved in an incident earlier? He's out 4th on the inside and currently in a transfer spot inside the top 10 and may make a run at the top 5 before this thing is over. Brian Hennings, oh, he thought about a split right there on Ben White. Tried to get his quarter panel, couldn't do it. Bottom line rolls huge. They make it all 5, maybe even almost close to 6 clear by the time they get into turn 3.
What a comeback for the 777 of Garrett Caswell from the back to the front, and now a chance to maybe go to the lead. Further back, Benjamin White trying to side draft. Him and Hennings have not been able to get lined back up, and this outside is fading and they are fading fast. 2 laps to go, and if we make it to the white flag, Dawson, this race will be official, so it's go time. Here we go. Cade McClenny on the inside, still getting pushed by the 777 of Garrett Caswell. The outside, though, starting to make a comeback. Here comes Benjamin White, and Henning's into 1.
Yeah, the big storyline, look out back. Baker, Dula, Carlbahn all out of the race as they stand right now. Baker in 17th position with a lap and a half to go. Hennings went to the middle. Nobody goes with him, and now Hennings is going the wrong way. Jones to the outside of the safer barrier. Couple of teammates. Oh, man, Tyler Vickery goes to the middle. Caswell goes to the middle a little further up. No dice for the 777. Top side, Jones. They're going to wreck it 3, and this is going to collect a bunch of them. Brian Hennings involved. The big one strikes right around the transfer position.
Big hit for Tyler Vickery in the 124. They're still wrecking. Oh, the 45. Going to get turned a second time there as Hilkowicz may have broken some suspension on that first hit. Matthew Dula's in it. A lot of really good race cars torn up in this. Dawson, we were so close, but you knew it can only go so good for so long before it got so bad so quickly. And now this is going to send us into that one green-white checkered attempt, and that could certainly change some things up. But let's go back and look at it here. Well, tell you what, it almost looked like for a brief second that they were actually going to save this. But, of course, when you have this many guys going for it at the end, it just usually doesn't work out. And here we go. As they go into turn 3, you see the 777, Garrett Caswell, he's fading quickly. But somehow it's the 45 of Hilkowicz who gets offset and it almost goes 4 wide there briefly. That's really where the issue sparks. Excuse me, not Hilkowicz, I apologize. The 45 a little bit further up there in that picture. And if we go back here, by the way, that's Johnny Shade in the 45, but if we go back here and look at this from a different angle here, we'll go to the chopper view first. Watch what happens as they go through the corner. You see Caswell, he's in the sucker hole, so he's going backwards. And Shade trying to push the 90. The 90 has nowhere to go. It's just a stack up starting. The 90 is trying to kind of whoa up so he doesn't run into the back of the 24, but he's getting pushed. And it looks like that starts to get him loose, gets him down the track. The 45 is trying to follow. And so when the 90 all of a sudden starts to get turned down, the 45 is going to try to correct in line behind him, but instead just gets him in the right rear. Nothing intentional right there. Johnny Shade actually, I think, just trying to play his part in line. Unfortunately, though, just kind of a result of a lot of pushing and shoving here at the end. And once it starts, Dawson, it's just like a domino effect. Eventually gets out back and collects a couple guys with some massive hits.
Yeah, and it's kind of something I've seen a lot over the past 2 weeks or so where 2 things happen at once. So you have the 777 going for a move to the middle, trying to get something going in that middle lane, and he gets split. And at the same time, the checkup starts on the bottom lane to where the 45 and the 90 get together. And unfortunately for Johnny Shade, he's just trying to get back in line. He clips the 90 enough, it shoots him to his right. And it just kind of all happens at once. Again, a pattern that I've noticed over the past week or so. When that happens at the same time as Caswell is stuck in the sucker hole, unfortunately, they come together. There's not enough real estate for 4 cars to run side by side here at Daytona, at least not for very long without something like this occurring. And man, some big hits in this one. Caswell was in a dual transfer spot. A couple of others. Tyler Vickery was in a transfer spot. Brian Hennings was in a transfer spot. And these are guys that have run generally close to the front, Hennings especially, all night long. And that's how quick it can happen, and that's how much damage it can do at Daytona when it breaks out late in this race. And now, desperation time for some guys that have run in a transfer position all evening long.
As we take one more look at it right here, there's those big hits for Vickery, Caswell, Hennings. The 48, nowhere to go as well. Nicholas Martinez been having a pretty solid run so far here tonight, trying to advance at the end, but boy, I really feel for Tyler Vickery, another driver who had a lot of optimism, Dawson, coming into tonight, and I believe he still has his fast repair, but unfortunately, obviously, with only 2 laps to go, I would say it's not impossible, but certainly improbable that you're going to go all the way from the back to the front, at least not without some sort of major wreck or playing some sort of witchcraft. I don't know. You're going to have some luck on your side, that's for sure. As you see Caswell doing some not victory donuts, but some sort of donuts here on the pits as he was trying to get that car oriented into his pit box, but just can't do it, and that's got our scoring messed up here just a little bit. That'll get corrected here, though, as the field goes by. And, well, Dawson, first heat of the night, and we're lining up here for a 2-lap shootout to decide it.
Yeah, and now, I mean, you're talking about serious nerves for guys that I figured would have good efforts and make it in. You're talking Brian Hennings now 23rd, Matt Dula in 24th, guys that I thought for sure would be in a transfer spot by this point. You're talking about Matthew Baker, who currently sits in the final LCQ transfer position in 13th. he's got to try to work forward, but he's got to be careful that if you try to go forward and nobody goes with you, I mean, we could be talking about one of the heaviest hitters, one of the potential favorites to even win the event on Sunday, not even making it past Tuesday night. What a storyline that would be. A couple of other guys back, not in the danger zone, but, you know, Eugene Mozganov, John Ellis, not necessarily safe here in terms of guys going to the middle. So a lot can happen in the next 2 laps. Got to be careful up front that you don't wreck, but got to be careful in the middle for Carlbahn and Baker and Rios and guys like that, that if you try to go forward, it doesn't end up costing you by guys going around you getting stuck in the middle, and then you really don't have time to make another move. Man, what a couple storylines this would be if a couple guys failed to make it out of this heat race.
Yeah, certainly, and not a good storyline either at that. But by the way, just before we get back to green flag racing here, if you're curious about what's up next, it'll be heat race number 2. That'll be tonight, and then heat race 3 will kick off the festivities tomorrow night. So if you see your favorite driver on either of those lists, that means they are coming up in one of the next 2 heat races. Both going to be stacked, both going to be fun to watch. I'm looking forward to them right after the finish that we're getting ready to set up for here tonight. But man, up front, Caden McClenny, he's looking good here. I think if you had to go with the favorite, he certainly is at the top of that list right now, but we'll have to see what happens. You said Matthew Baker's in that last transfer spot. I promise you he is not going to sit there, not for a whole 2 laps. But either way, this is going to decide it. One shot at a green-white checkered, 2-lap shootout to decide who's going to transfer in to the Duels and the Last Chance Qualifiers. Green flag back in the air, and it's a good restart for Cade McClenny. He's going to get clear. He'll have the option to jump up, but he's not going to make that move yet. Looks like for now he'll stick to the bottom, and he's waiting for a push here from Dylan Jones. Doesn't have it yet. Instead, it's the high side. How about Francisco Villarreal, up 27 spots from where he started this race at. He now finds himself with a chance to potentially win the heat.
Yeah, that top line didn't really side draft. That's going to allow guys to go to the middle. There's Carlbahn and Baker. They don't really have any help out back. They're going to need probably 1 or 2 more cars to go with them, or they're going to have to jump back out to the safer barrier here, and that's exactly what they're going to do. Headed into 3. Coming back to the white flag. If they make it there, this race is official, and we're going to all-out battle for the final transfer spots. On the bottom side, McClenny. No side draft by the top line in Villarreal. It'll be McClenny all the way home. White flag, 1 lap to go at Daytona.
If they wreck, it doesn't matter. It'll be over at this point. Still 2x2 though. Cade McClenny up front leading the inside. Villarreal on the outside. Will Jones make a move? Will Benjamin White make a move? Can that outside make one more charge? Eugene Moskanov, watch for him to set up a run down the super stretch.
Oh, man, out back, it's Carlbahn and Baker. They had to make the big move, and they do. They might wreck for the transfer spot. Matthew Baker goes around. His hopes are over. Up front, you got to keep it clean. Brock Westmoreland gets turned. Michael Sturgill gets turned. They're wrecking in the transfer positions. All the way home now.
I was going to say we'll figure it out later, because here they come off of 4. One more time, one more shot. Will Jones go for the move? There he goes. He looks to the outside. Tries to block. Can he do it? They're in the wall. Back to the line. It's going to be Cade McClenny, who takes heat race number 1 at Daytona.
And as we sort out here, we're going to have to go back to scoring to see who all is in. Dylan Jones made it interesting right there. A bit of a fun finish between McClenny and Jones, knowing they were well clear of being back in the danger zone. They obviously decided to race it out for the win. Justin May, what an effort for the 90 car. He's in the Duels. What a run. Plus 23. Ben White, of course, he makes it in. Good run for him. And Matthew Taylor, where did he come from? He's the last one in the Duels. The biggest storyline here, Eugene Mozganov out. Matthew Baker out. John Ellis, Matthew Dula, Francisco Villarreal are unfortunately eliminated from the PGR 500 on night number 1.
Yeah, not the way we saw that race playing out, not at least at the end, but I mean, what a win for Cade McClenny. Comes into his first PGR race and makes it look easy, and now he's got himself $60 in the back pocket, so he's already going to be playing with house money from this point forward, and he has locked himself in to the the VRX Simulators Duels at Daytona on Saturday, so he can go and relax for a little bit. But first, he's going to bring it around and burn it down to celebrate. He is the first winner in the road to the PGR 500 here this week. Beautiful looking paint scheme for that 05 machine. And as he burns it down here, I'll tell you what, Dawson, that move on the last lap, I was getting nervous for a second. When he blocked Jones initially, I thought that they were going to get tangled up and take each other out, but they keep it relatively clean. Definitely some friendly contact there coming to the line, but for a good finish for just 2 guys, that's certainly what we hope to see in the rest of the heats. And we'll go back and take a look at that last lap here in just a little bit. But before we do that, Take a look at your official, well, I shouldn't say official, but from what we have, official scoring here for heat race number 1. Cade McClenney finishes in first. It's going to be Dylan Jones back in that second spot, bringing home the last podium position here tonight. Justin May with Benjamin White back in fourth. And the last position to transfer into the duels from heat 1 is going to be Matthew Taylor. Evan Carlbon, he finishes sixth here tonight. Will be the first one to transfer into the LCQ. Kyle Shelton back in seventh with Nicholas Martinez in eighth. Good recovery for Nicholas after getting that damage on the last caution before the end of the race. Mark Vondell finishes in ninth. Good run for him as well. Johnny Shade 10th with Keaton Swain in 11th. And you've got Aaron Roth in 12th. And the last car to advance to the LCQs is going to be Brian Hennings in 13th.
Evan Schilling, the first car eliminated. He goes 14th. Brock Westmoreland eliminated. He goes 15th. Eugene Mosganov out of the PGR 500 here in 16th. Michael Sturgill, same in 17th. John Darnell, 18th. Louis Rios, 19th. Sean Ilkowicz, 20th. Matthew Baker eliminated in 21st. Landon Tilley, 22nd. Francisco Villarreal, 23rd. John Ellis eliminated in 24th. Corey Moore in 25th. Matt Dula eliminated in 26th. Kyler Bannock, 27th. Garrett Caswell, 28th. Tyler Vickery in 29th. And Devin Lyons, the final car in the field tonight in heat number 1.
Well, man, I mean, what a crazy start. I certainly didn't see that one coming there, especially, I think that may have caught a lot of people kind of off, a little bit off guard to see Cade McClenney come out here and put on such a dominant performance. Now, before we wrap things up here for Heat Race 1, let's go back and actually look at this last lap, or at least the last half of it, as this was really where all the chaos started to break out. So we'll just watch the whole lap back, might as well, as the 05 here takes the white flag on the bottom, and things, I'll tell you what, Dawson, things stayed pretty calm here until they got about halfway down the backstretch and then going into turn 3. That's where it seems like kind of everything broke loose.
Yeah, and it's pretty typical last lap at Daytona, and especially I talked about earlier at the Open, the desperation that it takes to be in one of these events, that it takes to advance your way through one of these events. And that's why in previous years, and even so far in this year in these kinds of formats that we've seen, when guys make that big desperation move, sometimes it works and it pays off, and unfortunately sometimes it does not pay off the way you'd want it to, and that's going to be the case for a few of the biggest hitters in this field that are now going to be eliminated. I mean, we're talking about Matthew Baker. That's kind of the first one that broke a little bit loose, and then we got further up towards the front where I thought we were going to be all good after the first incident, and we piled up going into 3 as well, as guys just tried to find real estate. And again, it goes into, you have to throw big moves to make it into these races. You have to take gaps that you're given. And unfortunately, doing that for several guys. The pileup in turn 3 is what claims Mosganov, it claims Ellis, and it claims several others. But the most impressive drive to me is Brian Hennings. He got jacked up in this wreck, is in the wall, and still makes it into the field, drives it home in 13th, the final transfer spot after being involved in the incident.
Yeah, and you pretty much called it just as I was going to it, Dawson. We're on the onboard view now, and you talk about impressive, and not just that, but then here at the end, still kind of has the awareness to realize, wait, I may still be in this. Hits the downshift. Look at his suspension. He's got the wheel completely upside down. Third gear, maxing out the RPM limiter, just doing everything he can. He gets in the wall once he crosses the line, but just doing everything he can to make it through, and it pays off for him. So that's the good news there for Brian Hennings. Then as we go back and watch that finish for Cade McClenney here. Watch this. Jones, he took a shot at it, Dawson. It was a clean shot, and watch this. McClenney tries to make the one block, looks for a second one. Actually, maybe a little contact there that gets Jones up, and then at this point, they start beating and banging. McClenney is able to prevail on that duel, but tell you what, not sure if Dylan Jones appreciated it too much, but they finished 1-2, so I think overall they're both happy, and of course, Cade McClenney now going to be $60 richer after taking heat number 1. All right, well, we know we're getting ready to line up for the next heat. Dawson, if you're a driver, what did you take from this one, and what are we expecting in the next one?
I mean, my nerves certainly didn't get any better if I'm in the cockpit of a car getting ready to go for heat number 2. If you were tuned into this one and you're about to get on track, you saw that last lap incident, you saw a couple of the incidents before that, and you saw, like, you know, a name like Matthew Baker or a name like Eugene Mosganov, guys that ran up front all race, end up out, and I think that makes you sober up just a little bit in the race car and kind of realize, okay, this can end in a split second with one bad move, or even maybe something that's completely not my fault. You just have to do everything you can to put yourself in position. And if I'm a driver in Heat 2, first of all, I would not be watching Heat number 1. But if I did, certainly did not get any more hopeful, if you will. My nerves certainly not any better going into the second one.
Yeah, I think I'd be the same way, but I might watch just to kind of know what I would expect. But I agree, boy, these things make you nervous as a driver, and it seems like the further on you get into the week, the more the nerves build up. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We will go take a brief break. We're going to put the starting soon screen and a little bit of music back on for now, as these guys will set up for heat race number 2. We'll put a timer on so you know when things are going to get rolling. And then once we get heat 2 underway, we'll have to see who's able to be victorious in that one. And then we'll wrap things up here tonight. So the action's not done. In fact, it's just about halfway finished. So make sure that you do stick around, but go get yourself, take a break, go get yourself a drink, get comfortable, and sit down, because we've got a great heat in store coming up here shortly. Stick with us here on PGR Esports.
here only because your stare won't ever let me go. I'm here only cause I'm aware with you is better than all alone. Oh, 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 say what you're dying to say. No, oh, oh, tonight we're stars but we'll fade away. Go on and light me up, oh, go on and light me up while we're golden. Come on and light me up, oh, come on and light me up before we come down. Stars will always come down. So before
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the road to the PGR 500. Get ready to kick off heat race number 2 after a thrilling finish in heat race number 1. Joining me in the booth here for heat race number 2 is Matt Mettler. Matt, how you feeling here tonight after the exciting finish that we saw in heat race number 1?
Man, I cannot wait to get this heat number 2 kicked off. The nighttime is the right time, Austin. I'm buckled in, ready to rock and roll, and hopefully everyone on the racetrack and watching on the airwaves is as well.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, a couple of notes to mention there from heat race number 1. One thing that we meant to tell you before we went to break is that we said Matthew Baker was eliminated. Well, technically he may be, but at the same time, he may not. Because remember, he set a pole position lap time to start that heat. So if that lap time remains as one of the 2 best lap times, once all the heat races have been complete, he will still lock himself into the feature. So it's not over just yet for the driver of the number 5 Coasting Thunder machine. Now, as for everybody else, still a lot of work to do if you made it to the next round. And here in Heat Race 2, 13 more drivers are going to have a chance to advance themselves either to the next couple of rounds or at least the next round with the Last Chance Qualifiers. And just as many big names as we had in the first one, Matt, we've got an equal amount in this one.
There certainly is. There's a great group of talent getting ready to be showcased here. And, to your point about, you just put this on the line for this race tonight. These drivers are going to be going through the gauntlet right now, getting ready to strap in to their race cars. The stress, the pressure, the need to go out there and succeed. Who is going to survive them? Who's going to have the mental toughness to go out there and perform? So many questions that we have answers to before we go ahead and kick this thing off.
Indeed. And by the way, if for any part during this feature, or not just the feature, but in general this week, if you see your favorite driver and we pronounce any part of their name wrong, again, please do let us know in the chat. We'll try our best to correct it. As again, we have drivers from all over the world, all different parts of the country. And so with that, we try to say every name as correctly as possible, but just wanted to note that in case you hear us potentially slightly mispronounce a name, just know that we are certainly trying our best. And so with that, drivers are getting gridded up. Matt, that means it is time to head down trackside and get into the Heat Race 2 starting grid here tonight. All right, how about taking the pole position and with a chance to potentially line up on the front row, we'll have to compare the front 2 lap times here to the front 2 lap times in Heat Race 1. But either way, it's going to be Alex Coffey in the 15 machine, put down a 49.110. He will start on the pole position here for Heat Race number 2. On his outside, starting on the outside pole, is going to be Steven Miles for Nightmare Esports in that 24 car. Back in the 3rd spot is going to be Nathan Harper with Adam Garza to his outside in 4th. Back in row 3, it's going to be Joshua McCullough alongside Richard Elliott. Landon Veliky back in the 7th spot in that 62 car. Devin Ray for the Jack Shack to his outside in 8th. And rounding out row 5 in the top 10 here tonight is going to be Aaron Mack in 9th and Miles Bagley rounding out the top 10.
Pulling off 11th, Bryce Donovan in that 28 machine, while outside of him, starting in that 12th place position out of Ohio, Crystal King. 13th belongs to Jason Walt in that 76 ride, rolling off 14th from MR Racing Esports, Mick Estridge. Running out your top 15, that's going to be Michael Mikey in the 38. There's one you don't want to mess up calling it in real time. And then outside of him, from my home state, Florida, of course, Brandon Kittle going to round out your top 16. 17th going to belong to Justin Tramboli in that 10 machine, obviously being funded by that Nitro Speed Shop team. Outside of him, Gordon Spain of OG Racing. 19th, Ben Helm in that 54 ride. Ron Morris Jr. from McCullough Motorsports going to round out your top 20.
Derek Farr will start back in 21st. It's going to be Andrew Zonto to his outside in 22nd. And you've got James Portalisi back in the 23rd spot with Julio Villalobos Jr. in the 24th spot. And rounding out the final 6 here tonight, back in 25th, it's going to be Jeff Byers, Michael Lockwood to his outside in the 28th spot. And you've got Quinn Davis in 27th, Michael Barksdale in 28th, and then you've got Devin Hernandez back in 29th. Tucker McClendon rounding out your top 30. It's going to be, looks like Victor Fluger. I'm not sure if he's actually starting the race here tonight, nor is Paul Murrell. I think those two may either be spotters or drivers that accidentally joined. Again, we're only supposed to have a scheduled 30 cars per heat race, so we'll keep an eye on that here once the race actually starts up. But in terms of the race info, going to be the same as what we saw in Heat Race 1. Same distance, same rules apply. And of course, you still have that one faster pair. Same exact weather conditions, both for qualifying and the race. So no big differences to note, at least in that aspect. But of course, the big difference, Matt, going to be the strength of field. And we have got another stacked one up front. Stephen Miles, Alex Coffey, Nathan Harper. That's 3 drivers that I think are getting ready to put on a show here. We'll see what they can do. Again, you've got 30 laps to try to get yourself inside the top 13. And if you want to take it a step further and lock yourself into the duels, you're going to have to get inside the top 5. We saw a pretty good one for Heat Race 1. Just a couple of cautions to note. Can we get even sledding here for Heat Race 2? We're getting ready to find out. It'll be the final one of qualifying day number 1 here for the PGR 500. Here we go. Pace car pulls off. Alex Coffey into the Geico restart zone. Green flag is in the air. We are back underway at Daytona.
Running up through the gearbox now as we get that crazy trainer rolling here for your second qualifier of the evening. It's a 2x2 side-by-side drag race as they go through the turns 1 and 2 complex, for the first time. Still dead even as they go ahead and fire down the backstretch.
And as they race 2x2 down the super stretch for the first time here in Heat Race number 2, nobody daring to make a move yet. We've got one car in the middle, but not going to go anywhere towards the front, at least not anytime soon. Stephen Miles already starting to work on trying to side draft this inside line. He knows that's what he's going to have to do. The good news, though, is he's getting a little bit of help here. Looks like Adam Garza is on board with that 24 car, but out back, Richard Elliott, Devin Ray, those two maybe going to work together at some point here tonight. But I think right now, after all the chaos that we saw at the end of Heat Race 1, these guys are okay with just trying to click off a couple of laps before they get to racy. Further in the back, a couple of the notable entries. How about Jason Wallet in the 76, one of the College Series drivers, trying to make his run at a PGR 500. And it all begins here tonight. Austin Trombley back in the 13th spot. He's already up 4 positions from where he started this race at. But your biggest mover right now inside the top 5 is a tiebreaker. Whoa, watch out. Hold on. We got one on the apron here. And it looks like they save it, Matt, but that was trouble early. Looks like for the 8th, that was Mick Estridge.
Yeah, Mick Estridge got set for a ride down to the flatlands, and you come off that banking, that really upsets that race car as that car gets loaded back up. He did a great job regaining control and getting it up on the racing surface without setting off any other types of calamities. We're still under green flag conditions here as we work now lap 3 of the scheduled 30. Up at the front, it is Harper bringing the turn and burn there with the Dallas Cowboys on board, getting some big help there from that Toyota as they have all the energy rolling the high side.
Trouble out back. One car around, slides down through the grass. We stay green for the moment. And it looks like that may have been the 38 car of Michael Mikey. I think it's actually Michael Mitchum, goes by Mikey. Either way, the 38 with a big slide early. He's going to keep it together. We'll go back and show you one quick replay before we go back up front. Not sure what got him hooked out of line, but whatever it was, he is lucky that that did not collect a whole bunch more. Watch this as they come off of turn 2. Is the 31 going to try to slot in line? No, not quite. The 27 and the 31 actually get together, and it was Derek Farr on the 27. And then good save, though. Tell you what, by Mitchum right there. That could have been a whole lot worse, but some chaos early, Matt. I think that sets us up for what to expect the rest of the way as they're back to 3 wide near the front.
And that doesn't surprise me, given what's on the line here tonight. And you can see the intensity is that it's a 2x2 Noah's Ark situation. Shades of COT era here at the point as that slowly transitions now. Big time push on the high side of the racetrack. That is going to send the 4 and hit the afterburner. And you can see him open it up about 2 to 3 car lengths as the 14 comes up and gives him another shot. Harper doing a great job here early, controlling both of these lanes as the high side continues to be the focal point. Oh no, the 8 as we go on board is going to get caught in the sucker hole. And you can see him getting split by those lanes to the high side and low side as he has just gotten a one-way ticket to the back of the pack. He's going to file in here on the bottom lane just behind that 27 machine.
And we moved up a few spots here to Miles Bagley, who's sitting pretty comfortably on the outside right now in that 11th spot. That is in position to advance to the last chance qualifier. Not close enough, though, to make it to the duels. And right now, Nathan Harper looking well in control up front. Him and Joshua McCullough working well together. By the way, Joshua McCullough, of course, racing in the PGR Light Championship last night, had the opportunity to get a little bit associated, a little bit familiar with these cars, if you will. And he's got the 62 machine of Landon Velicki just behind him. How about the 19, your pole sitter, trying to get back to the front? That's Alex Coffey. Still, we have not seen quite the aggression level of guys trying to split to that third lane that we saw in the first heat, at least not yet. Further back has been really, well, kind of the elbows out racing has been. They've been trying to go 3 wide here for about the back 4 or 5 rows, pretty much since we dropped the green. Hasn't worked out too much just yet, but they're going to try it yet again. See if they can get a little bit better luck this time, if you will. As it looked like that was the 80 who jumped up in line. How about Andrew Zonto trying to roll his way to the front? And I'll tell you what, an interesting tidbit here with Andrew Zonto. He doesn't race on a steering wheel like everybody else. He races on a controller. And I don't know how guys can do that here when you're going almost 200 miles an hour. But so far, he is moving himself in the right direction.
Check out this group of cars utilizing the middle of this racetrack. Typically a spot these guys avoid. A driver you just mentioned moments ago, they are gaining some serious traction coming up the gut right now, but going back up to the point, it is still that Dallas Cowboys dark horse Ford Mustang that continues to carry the torch, now getting a lot of help there as they're neatly stacked and racked on the top shelf of the racetrack where Mama hides the cookies, and they continue to bring the boogie. As we go on board now, flip it around to the back door bumper camera here. Take a look at that bump drafting. Talking about being up close and personal.
Whoa.
Austin, whoa, we got problems. 2 cars, 3 cars, now a whole lot of them going every which way but straight. As that's going to bring out the first caution for incident here in the second of the second broadcast here this evening. There's the 27 going through the grass. He's got some moderate front end damage there. Oh, the 19 there, Alex Coffey. Phenomenal driver, competes over there in Moonshiners Racing Series. Beast Mode performance entry is not going according to plan there, as the front of that machine is all caked in. That's going to be its extended time on pit road to get that car fixed, and multiple cars here involved, Austin.
Yeah, and I mean, Brandon Cattell, one of the favorites for the whole event, and he's got damage early here in the heat. Again, he's not done. Nobody in this wreck is. You've got a fast repair, but similar to what we saw with the first heat, you don't want to get buried because it's not that much time here. Going to only have probably about 19 laps to go or so, maybe 20 when we get back to green flag racing. So we'll have to see what happens, but let's go back and look at it here, Matt, and see exactly where it all went wrong. I mean, this was a relatively big wreck here for a 30-car field. It collected at least a handful or two. And if we go back first, we'll look at this from an aerial shot. And so you see, that's Brandon Cattell in the 80. Does it start with him? See, he's 3 wide. You got the 5 in the middle. No, starts way ahead there. Looks like the 42 car was actually the first car to get turned in this instance. And then it looks like everything's going to break out from there. But overall, you still wonder what exactly was it that got this 42 car turned. That's what we'll have to go back and actually look at here. But I mean, just from the initial view, you can see just how many it collects there, Matt. I mean, when you get one guy involved here, it seems like it collects a whole bunch of them.
You know, and the other thing is you don't have the real estate to work with at Daytona like you have at Talladega. So once those escape routes plug up, those arteries, it's almost darn near impossible to find a way to thread the needle here. And that's, you know, pretty much what happened here. This incident started, it looked like the car in the bottom lane there working the inside. So we go up to the chopper camera.
That's the 54, by the way, of Ben Hollum that ultimately sparks the contact. And just it's a checkup, right? I mean, it's a checkup out front. You see the 28 top left of your screen. Going to get a little bit loose here, maybe off a slight push from Wallet, or maybe from some slight contact with the left rear Nathan Harper. But either way, that starts to check him up. And then it gets the 42 down the track, the 54 trying to check up. And then as he tries to duck back down the line, just misjudges it. We saw a very similar wreck in the first heat. And then once he gets him turned around, the 19, Alex Coffey, nowhere to go. Look at this. Stephen Miles, Brandon Cattell, they're going to pile up on the outside. They had nowhere to go either. And then a couple of big hits there. Alex Coffey, major damage to both the front and the rear. So that's a tough break early for a lot of the favorites.
Yeah, heartbreak there for Coffey. You know, and that's just Daytona doing Daytona things right there. You know, it was just timing of that checkup. When that happened, the 54 came up the racetrack, and He just leaded to an ill-timed tap there, especially on that portion of the race car into the corner. That's where the car's, is going to be the most unstable, or at least in my opinion. And the byproduct of that multiple car incident here early. And I know these drivers do have that fast repair in their back pocket, but you hate to use it early because you can almost guarantee there's going to be an increase in incidences out there on the racetrack. If you now go on board here with Andrew Zanto out of Connecticut, and my God, did he have front row tickets just about to this thing? And then he has multiple cars being fired at him. Great job. Excellent situational awareness there, trying to do what he can to keep himself out of harm's way.
Yeah, minimizing the damage, if you will, kind of trying to stop the bleeding after he already had that initial contact at the start of the wreck. But that's a break for those 3 cars that you see just now working into frame that had actually lost this lead pack. But again, a tough break for a lot of the favorites. They'll still have a shot at it, though. They're going to have to get really aggressive, which could start to change the dynamic of this race, as looks like the lights on the pace car are indeed going to go off this time. So that means we will be getting back to green flag racing. And up front, leading the way, you've got Nathan Harper, Joshua McCullough in the 2nd spot. It's going to be Landon Veliky back in 3rd. How about Bryce Dullabon? Has now made his way up to 4th. He's up 7 positions from where he started this race at. You've got Jason Wallett in 5th, Crystal King in 6th, Richard Elliott 7th, Andrew Zonto back in 8th with Adam Garza in 9th, and Jeff Byers rounding out your top 10.
Yeah, Jeff Byers has been the man on the move here, at least in the early going. Biggest mover of the race, as you mentioned, up 15 spots. And the one thing I've noticed about him is he's just been patient and taking his time out there. He's really not forcing the issue, taking what the racetrack gives him. And I think that could be part of the keys to success here. I think we're going to see a lot of over-aggressive driving, especially here in the early stages, like we've seen, just because what's on the table. And I think perhaps some of these drivers that are able just to manage the situation out there on the racetrack are going to put themselves in a good position to go out there and contend when it gets down to, when we really crank up the excitometer. 3 laps to go. I'll continue to monitor his progress as those lights are out on the pace car. Right now, Austin, it's the calm before the storm on the racetrack. It's equivalent of being into that eye of a Category 5 hurricane. All was calm, but not for long, as the field now comes out of the turns 3 and 4 complex.
Yeah, and when the pace car pulls off and the green flag flies, it will be officially less than 20 laps to go here in heat race number 2. That means it's go time. By the way, big thank you to the sponsor of heat race 2 here tonight, and that was Gordon Spain with Spain's Tire Center. So again, big thank you to both Gordon Spain and Spain's Tire Center for sponsoring heat race number 2. All right, here we go. The iRacing.com pace car going to make the left turn for the 2nd time here in heat race number 2. Harper and Joshua McCullough will see the green flag back in the air, and it's a great restart for the 4-car. Watch what Harper's going to do as soon as he crosses the line. He'll jump right up to the top of the racetrack. There he goes. Veliky further back trying to line up Joshua McCullough for a push. It almost looked like he briefly skimmed the outside wall. Further back, the 8 of Garza was able to jump up just in front of him. I was trying to figure out exactly who that was, and it looks like that may have been Julio Villalobos. Again, I apologize if I'm pronouncing the last name wrong, but right now he is also another one of the drivers that's on the move. Tucker McClendon with the big shark teeth on the front grille of his Toyota Camry, also on the move a little bit further back. But this inside, Matt, still struggling. The outside has been rolling. They're going to have to figure something out sooner. They're going to find themselves getting buried.
Yeah, and that outside lane right now has a lot of the PGR regulars. Nathan Harper has some serious boogie under that Mustang hoodie right now, especially with that arsenal he has up there on the high side of the racetrack. Joshua McCullough, Landon Veliky, some of the big names, the big stars in the series, and these guys have teamed up, and they are become a force to reckon with, almost like an iron curtain out there at the front of this piece. That bottom lane just hasn't been able to put together a solution, at least as we're now working 18 laps to go here. However, just as I say that, they start to get teamed up. A little off-time push there at the bottom. The 76 is going to have to lift. That's going to cost them a little bit of time, but they get it back rolling again. Now here comes those Camaros rolling on the inside. They're going to pull dead even just about coming off of the corner here. That should transition the momentum back to the high side of the racetrack, especially with that 14 glued to the back of the 7.
And now it's going to start to become more so a battle of who has the most temperatures. Joshua McCullough's been pushing Harper for a while. Wallett's been doing everything.
We got problems. The 80 machine got yeeted, kicked down to the flatlands. However, we are going to stay green.
There it is. Brandon Cattell, who was just involved in that last incident, now gets involved in another. You see some damage there to the left side door. Besides that, I think he's okay, and even that damage won't end his race, but he's going to need a caution to have any chance of getting back in it. Let's see what happened to him here. Matt, you saw it out back, and yeah, it kind of caught the corner of my eye right at the last second, but Cattell here, as they're coming out of the tri-oval, he's towards the back. He's just kind of riding around, and looks like he gets together with, I couldn't tell who from that angle. We'll get one more shot at this here before we go back live. Looks like the 12 car. That's what all sparks that. By the way, that was Quinn Davis. And so when this happens, watch it once here from the aerial shot. Cattell in the middle. And, ooh, looks like the 12 just sneaking up the racetrack a little bit. Some slight contact. And once they get hooked together, Cattell's going to go around. Does a couple of 360s before he eventually straightens it out and is able to continue on. Back live. He's way behind a pack, though. And up front, they are still 2x2. It's Nathan Harper letting Joshua McCullough cool a little bit down the super stretch on the inside. Right up to 28. Bryce Delabon looks like he is missing some sponsorship on that Chevy Camaro. Maybe he'll get some with the performance he's putting on here tonight, sitting in that third spot, up 8 from where he started this race at. But Joshua McCullough showing a ton of patience right now, Matt. Has not jumped out on Harper, has stayed committed, and it's working out well for the both of them right now as they continue to lead with 15 laps to go.
15 laps to go. These guys at the front continue to show the way and carry the torch, as it has been a slugfest between Harper, Delabon, McCullough, and that 76 there as well. Veliky in the mix, doing a great job here of being patient. You talked about working together, staying with your dance partner. Harper and McCullough, they have been together like glue. Is now the biggest run they have seen on the bottom of the racetrack as it explodes once again. The 47 is going to go to the grass. The 19, there's Alex Coffey once again involved. The 24 is going to be down way off the racing surface as that second caution flag going to fly here and slow things back down again. And while we see a lot of cars there off the racing surface there, Austin, I think that could have been a lot worse than what it actually was.
Yeah, it certainly could have been. I was trying to figure out who was actually the first car that got turned out of line here. I mean, either way, that was certainly an unfortunate situation, but I couldn't really tell what happened, Matt. I saw, of course, the first car that went around, but after that, it was just everybody scattering to miss it, as you said, which, I mean, they did a pretty good job of it. This looked like initially it was going to be a whole lot worse than it ultimately was, but if we go back to kind of right around where this may have started at here, let's see what sparks this one up. It was a little bit further towards the front here. Actually, looks like maybe just in front of Tucker McClendon. And if we go back to the chopper view, you see Tucker here pushing on the back bumper there. I believe it might have been Jeff Byers that he was pushed on the back bumper of here. Let's see, did Jeff lose some positions out of that? If so, that'll pretty much be the giveaway that he was involved in. Looks like he may have been. All right, so watch Byers here on the outside. Yeah, just kind of running in line. Byers isn't trying to necessarily push the pace. Tucker's got to run out back. He's getting pushed by Devin Ray. And Byers just trying to check up a little bit. Doesn't want to get too close to Navarro Zonto rather. And as he does that, Tucker McClendon is going to get into the back of him, and it just starts to knock him out of shape. Tucker maybe gets another shot. This one's the one that really does the most damage, though, as it gets him in the right rear, turns him into the outside wall. That's a pretty big hit to the front nose of his Chevy Camaro, and now it's everybody trying to dodge it. 5 car spins out. Really nowhere to go. But after that, it seemed like guys were able to start to get it back together. By the way, that was Miles Bagley in the 5 car who you saw go for a spin. He did get hit, but I don't think it was too bad. But, I mean, overall, Matt, just a situation of these cars, they generate massive runs, and look like maybe Devin and Tucker getting linked together and not realizing that there was going to be a checkup with Byers as he caught a little bit of a slower car. And I say a slower car, but really just the group kind of checking up, and checkups go out back, and it's on.
I'll tell you what, speaking of runs, that was the don't stay where I'd use tide moment of the race for certain. Did you see that 2 car? I have no idea how he was able to pull the Houdini like that and squeeze it in between the car and the outside wall, and he found a crease barely big enough for that car to fit through. Probably one of the best accident avoidances here I have seen in a while. As we go on board, check this out.
A little bit of damage.
How did he miss that
end.
car on the high side?
No, I completely agree. I mean, that is just, that's quick reaction for sure. Unfortunately for Devin, he still gets a little bit of damage out of it regardless. But yeah, I mean, it certainly could have been a whole lot worse had he have not missed the initial car. Another car that had a pretty close near miss right here was Devin Hernandez in the 78. He's going to see this unfold in front of him. He's kind of sticking with a little bit of a second pack, sees the wreck, starts to get on the brakes. He's going to go low, and then this is where it's going to get really, really dicey He's on the flat, not a lot of grip down there. You see Steven Miles dirt tracking it through the grass on the inside. We had a couple of others that were able to escape. Looks like the 4-car up top, Michael Barksdale, he sneaks through it okay. So second wreck here, Matt, and now you start to wonder at this point, do we maybe have a couple cars that could be out with some damage from this one? I don't think so. As you see Gordon Spain actually shoot by there. Was he involved? Sponsor of heat number 2? I don't think he was, unless he got collected at the end. Doesn't look like it. So nice shot for Gordon Spain as well. And good news for Jeff Byers that even though he was the first car that kind of got hooked as part of that incident, looks like he was still able to roll away. So he will still be able to stay out here and compete. Unfortunately, though, he is going to be right now buried kind of further back. And, well, I said he was still out here. Looks like he's going to go in and pit, so he's still got a little bit of front-end damage. But he'll get worked on before he brings that race car back onto the track. And now we're going to see a restart with just 11 laps to go.
Pretty much a Friday night shootout local track style here to write the second race in the books here this evening. Who's going to be in, who's going to be on the skid, kicking stones when this one is over? We're about to find out right here on PGR eSports. I want to thank everyone for tuning in, holding on for all the high-flying, high-octane racing action with us as the field now makes their way through the complex, 2x2, side-by-side. Usual suspects up at the front. Nathan Harper, who is up 2 positions from where he started. He has been doing the dance at all race long with Joshua McCullough. That pair has been absolutely pristine thus far throughout the course of this competition. I am keeping my eye, though, on Landon Velicki, Austin. He just seems to be a driver that can really rise to the occasion in these intense moments. He's done it before in the past, and that gives him confidence. Something that some of these newcomers may not have in these high-intensity these situations like this. I have that 62 circled here on my end. I'm going to keep my eye on him as we get ready to rock and roll here from Daytona.
Yeah, getting ready to rock and roll potentially for the final time. We'll have to see. These guys can keep it clean all the way back to the white flag. That's still a long ways away. And if we get another caution, you start to look closer and closer at the possibility of heading into that one green-white checkered attempt. So now that the chaos has started to break out, by this point as a driver, the nerves should have started to calm down. And now the stress starts to ramp up because if you're not inside the top 13, you've got to go. If you're inside the top 13, you might want to be looking for a little bit more, trying to get within the top 5. But Harper and McCullough have been money so far. We'll see if they can keep that up the rest of the way. Green flag back in the air, and it will be another jump here for Nathan Harper. Can he pull 2 cars clear? Is it just going to be 1 this time? Not quite going to get 2. That was really close right there for Bryce. Almost had the opportunity to follow that 4-car up, but instead it'll be Joshua McCullough lining up with Landon Velicki and even Richard Elliott. I'll tell you what, Matt, I think that those 4 have been kind of, maybe made an agreement to stick together here tonight, as now we see Julio starting to work his way inside the top 10. He's up 17 positions from where he started this race at. He's got the Saturday Night Racing League. Beautiful looking paint scheme on that number 45 Toyota Camry. Is meanwhile, look on the bottom, Jason Wallet in the Insomnia Cookies 76 Chevy Camaro. He's trying to push the 28.
Get skinny, guys. Sorry to cut you off there. At 47, once again, he got put in the middle, and they got up close and personal, just a couple inches between him once again, as we're now 3 wide there, around 13th on back. You can see the mayhem really starting to get ready to break loose here, as we're now just 10 laps remaining here from the big house at Daytona.
Wow, man, and the craziest racing isn't even at the front. It's further back for the 20th position here. Steven Miles right now getting a massive push. This might take him all the way to the front. That's Austin Trombley who's giving him that big push, but they're finally going to tuck in line as further up. You saw Brandon Cattell starting to mix it back up. A lot of positions here still to be made up. We still have quite a bit of the field in this lead pack, but it's only Steven Miles at this point who's committed to that middle lane. Doesn't look like he's gotten any more help, at least not yet. And we'll be coming to 9 laps to go this time, so we are officially in single digits. It's getting time for desperation, Matt. What's going to happen here?
I think what you're going to see here is at the front, we're going to see it more calmer than we typically see. Remember, we're racing for that 13th place position, and we got big-time problems in the back as multiple cars send up into the fence. 1 car goes helicopter mode as the 2 slides down the racetrack, locks it down. And that was a hard lick there, as that 55 going the wrong way on the top shelf of the racetrack as he comes down the racetrack, as that Camaro comes to a halt. As we go on board, yeah, that's no bueno. That's what I like to call Bluetooth suspension there. Is that rear end of that car is locked up. That tire is not rotating, and he is going to teleport that to the pits. Hopefully, he has a fast repair in his back pocket as we now send it back to the PGR instant replay. Austin, what went wrong?
Well, that's the big question here. I mean, you've got Zonto running in the middle, and 21 car comes down. Zonto, okay, there. Ooh, the contact's actually going to be further up here. With the 21 getting into the 31, that's what actually kicks it off. That's Aaron Mack in the 31 who gets hooked initially. We'll back this up again and play this a little bit slower for you. And by the way, looking at the 21 car, that's James Portolisi. And it looks like here, I think James is just going to move up a little bit and get into him. Watch it slow. We'll see if this is a pretty good angle of it. Well, it's close. We might need to look a little bit more of an aerial shot and watch it one more time here. This is going to be from the chopper view. And notice what happens here as they get into the corner. Again, they're 3 wide. Not a lot of room here at Daytona, Matt. 55's already running pretty high, but Zonto's still holding his line nonetheless. The 31 actually gets into the outside wall. That's going to cause a bit of a stack up. The 21 sees that. He's going to try to dive low. He gets low, but then right here starts to come back up. Now, granted, the 31 may have been creeping down a little bit, but at the same time, yeah, it just looks to me like the 21 starts to move up the racetrack. Portolisi, rather. I think that's one of those things where when you jerk the wheel hard enough left here, you got to kind of settle the race car back down, and to do that, you need a little bit of space. He didn't have too much to work with, and as he got back up, 31 was there. That gets him turned around, and big impact for Andrew Zonto. I mean, that was a massive hit, Matt, destroying the front end of that race car.
And that was the first thing that I seen when that incident broke out on the racetrack. The 55 just walloping that safer barrier and all 4 tires coming off the ground. And unfortunately for the 31 of Aaron Mack, there, a rare mistake, self-inflicted concrete poisoning, going to check that momentum up and ultimately pay a factor in sparking this one. And look at that hit.
And he wasn't the only one either, Matt. Look at Devin Ray in the 2, nowhere to go. He piles into the 31. So a lot of cars again that really needed to have a good run here to keep their hopes of making a PGR 500. In fact, the first annual PGR 500 alive, and starting to look less and less likely. A couple of them, I think, still have a fast repair, but I mean, at this point in the race, that's not really worth much, knowing that you're going to have to try to go all the way from the back to the front in the span of probably just about a handful of laps or so. So Zonto in the pits, still getting repairs done to his race car. Hopefully he's not done for the night as we go back up front, where Nathan Harper finds himself in the lead. Joshua McCullough second, and then you've got Bryce Dillabon in third, Landon Velicki fourth, with Jason Wallet back in fifth, Richard Elliott sixth, Crystal King in seventh, with Adam Garza in eighth, Tucker McClendon ninth, and Julia Villalobos back in the 10th spot. He's up 14 positions from where he started this race at.
We continue under caution here with those lights on that iRacing.com pace car. You know, if we throw it in reverse just for a moment, Austin, you mentioned Devin Ray in that 2 machine, and this just goes to show you how the tides can easily shift here at Daytona. You go back to that last caution sequence, the 2 had a miraculous job of driving around the wheel, just almost unleashes God mode, able to find a way to drive through that car in front of him that was basically at a standstill, somehow was able to get that machine around it, and then this time, unfortunately, it exploded right in front of his face, and that 2 had nowhere to go. A big-time lick for Devin Ray, and that's just the thing. You know, you have to have lady luck on your side, you know, at the, plate tracks in general, especially here at Daytona. And sometimes you have it, and other times it can change on you quick, fast, and in a hurry. And then the other part of that, you mentioned those fast repairs. They are becoming a premium, as most of the drivers now have utilized them. And unfortunately, some of these guys do not have another one in their back pocket. So if we get into a situation here where cautions breed cautions here at the end, some of these guys are definitely, unfortunately, going to be on the outside looking in. Certainly, they don't want their hopes of making the PGR 500 to be over. So I think this is really where you're going to see the peak intensity of this race more than what we've seen thus far.
I completely agree. By the way, one more look at what the next heat race up is. It'll be Heat Race 3, which will kick off tomorrow night at about 8 p.m. Eastern. You can catch that live, same place here on PGR eSports. By the way, you'll see a lot of mixing and matching of commentators here through the heats. Dawson Wise will be the producer tomorrow, and of course he'll be commentating as well. Be working with a couple of different guys, so looking forward to that. It was fun having you here tonight, Matt. I know that we're looking forward to seeing you again on Saturday for at least one of the LCQs or potentially one of the duels. And then I will be back on Thursday, going to have a chance to actually race in one of the heats. And then I'll be back up here in the booth after that. So looking forward to that. But for these guys, 5 laps to go. It's going to be exciting. Well, how about it? 183 concurrent viewers, and we're only in the heat race stages. Can't thank everybody enough for tuning in here tonight. We hope that you are enjoying as we can get ready to wrap this one up. Don't forget to leave us a like and a follow if you're new. We certainly do appreciate it. All right, here we go. It could be our last chance at a restart. Could be the last chance for a couple of guys to try to make their way back to the front. Nathan Harper, Joshua McCullough watch for the same exact chemistry that they've had on the last couple of restarts. There it is, green flag in the air. Harper gets the jump, but this time Joshua McCullough tries to match. Looks like now maybe he'll lift just enough for Harper to slide out. Velicki's okay with it. He'll stay tucked in line for now. As further back, a little bit of 2x2. The 28 though, Bryce Dublin on the bottom trying to get back to the front here. Can he do it?
Bubble and vibrant on the bottom. That's the Camaro leading the charge on the bottom of the racetrack as he's eating hard on the inside. But the top side has been vibrant all race long, and they continue to do so as it's a mad dash down the super stretch here as we get back up to speed with just 5 laps remaining. Check out the push on the high side of the racetrack as we go full-blown tandem mode on the top shelf of the racetrack. That Cowboys powered Mustang has been absolutely electrifying here this whole race. And we got one car in the wall. The Camaro goes up, smacks the high side of the racetrack. He's going to be able to get it down off of the racing surface as he has a broken right front suspension there on that race car. And once again, these drivers do a superb job of being able to keep themselves out of harm's way. Unfortunately for Gordon Spade, his opportunity, the window to make this PGR 500 may be coming to a close as we're now 3 wide, hot and heavy here at the front, Austin.
Oh man, 3 wide pretty much through the entirety of this lead pack. Harper and McCullough not sure where they want to go. Looks like for now they'll commit to the middle. And this is a big opportunity for Garza. Watch the 8 trying to jump up, but he's not going to go yet. Alex Coffey looking for a run. He's working with the 5 machine now. And the 8 went up, but McCullough and Harper were able to block. Where will Garza go next, or will he stay in line? We got some trouble out back here. Not sure if it's going to draw the caution. Looks like right now it's just Quinn Davis who has taken it down to the pits. We'll have to look at that at the end if we get a chance. But just 3 laps to go, and Matt, if they make it to the white flag, this race will be official. Still a ways to go to get to that point, but they're starting to look like they might be calming things down here at the front as they get back to 2x2 down the super stretch.
And I think that's the smart thing to do. Remember, we're racing the P13 for right on the inside of that. It's like a win to these guys. They just need to get around and complete this lap so we can get back to the checkered flag. These drivers, especially up here at the front, look at the run from Alex Coffey as he's bringing the beads, and we almost have another one kick off, and there it goes. Alex Coffey, just as I said that, got clobbered as his hopes almost go up in a plume of smoke as multiple cars back down through the grass, and that is going to punch the yellow flag before we get to the start-finish line, which means, ladies and gentlemen, we are going into overtime, and why not? It is Daytona after all, Austin.
Yep, similar trends with what we saw in Heat 1 to Heat 2, and it'll carry over in terms of going to extra laps in that category as we will take our 1 green-white checkered here before we finish this race off here tonight. Not a lot of damage for Coffey, but from what it looked like live, Matt, I believe he just gets turned here, and I don't think it's anything egregious, nothing intentional. It's just a guy trying to help Coffey stay up front, but you got to be disciplined when you're pushing, and especially when you're pushing in the corners. These cars can take it, but you've got to be so perfect. You have to be dead center, and you've got to be really, really smooth. And unfortunately here, I think that the 5 car is just going to get a little bit offset. By the way, that is Miles Bagley in the 5. And watch right here. Yeah, look at that. Miles, he starts to dip low, and as he does that, that offsets him left right as they're coming off the corner. That's where the car unloads off the banking, and it just gets Coffey turned around. He saves it, but unfortunately in the process overcorrects. Gets back up into Bagley. Now he's back down off the racetrack. Look at the job by Jason Wallet to miss that one. And then further back, Cattell, I think, gets into the back of the 21 machine of James Portalisi, and it's on from here. You see, we've got cars scattered everywhere. I don't think any of them really necessarily hit anything too hard. But a lot of them had to go through the grass. Nobody goes into the pits either. but it's still, I mean, you're going to lose all your track position, and if you're Alex Coffey, you just went from the lead back to, back in the 20-plus positions, and we're only going to have 2 laps to go. So it's a tough break for Coffey. I mean, he's been kind of one of the guys who's had a bit of a roller coaster of a night here so far, and it's going to continue that way. Unfortunately, not in the way that he'd like it to go. He was going forward, and now he may be stuck kind of going backwards the rest of the way with the way things might go during this green-white checkered.
I'll tell you what, that bump couldn't have come at a worser time. That portion of the racetrack, as you mentioned, where that car unloads, is right when he got that assist. And unfortunately, he just could not hang on to it. And, Austin, that car becomes really light right there as well. And it doesn't take much to make the back end of that race car decide, I'm not staying hooked up into the racetrack. You can see him try to save it, does a great job, but because he went down to the flatlands there, the car wants to violently come back up the racetrack, and he really had to get on the wheel there. And I know this looks bad. You see all the tire smoke, but remember, folks, when these cars come to an abrupt halt, that's when the damage really occurs. When they bounce off each other a little bit but continue to scrub off speed gradually, a lot of times, other than some dents and bruises, they can continue to carry on.
Absolutely. I think the only concern, Matt, after looking at some of the more slow motion replays there was I saw a lot of suspension components getting hit, especially for Alex Coffey and a couple of others. I think even the 5 car took a pretty big hit. And so, yeah, it looks like actually, as a matter of fact, for Bagley here, not sure if it was an EOL or damage to the suspension, but he has now taken it to the pits, and that may very well end his night. So unfortunate break right there. But either way, we'll have to see what happens. And again, it'll be a green-white checkered finish here. We'll have one shot at it. If these guys wreck and race control throws the caution, that's it. We're done, and we'll finish it out under caution. But if not, and again, this will be our only shot at it. As they line up front, Nathan Harper being scored as your leader, Joshua McCullough second, with Adam Garza back in third. Then you've got Bryce Dollabin in the 4th spot. And then Landon Velicki currently rounding out your top 5. Richard Elliott back in 6th. Jason Wall at 7th. Look at Julio for the Lobos right now, back up in the 8th spot. He's up 16 positions from where he started this race at. Portolisi currently sits in 9th. And you've got Brandon Cattell making the comeback after all the trouble he had earlier, as he is now also back inside the top 10. And so with just 2 laps to go, I mean, it's a lot of favorites you could pick. But one thing I'll say for sure right now, Matt, is that up front, Harper and Joshua McCullough, I think they've been 1-2 pretty much the entire heat. You can't forget about Richard Elliott or Landon Velicki. They've been up front as well. I think now kind of the 2 wild cards, maybe the 28 and the 8, who have been up front, but are now kind of separating that trio slash whatever you want to call it, quadruplet, that has been working so well together here the entirety of this heat.
No, well said. And, without question, Nathan Harper, this is probably one of the most clutch performances I have seen from him, at least up here in the PGR eSports broadcast booth. What a run for him. And then you have the other storylines like Villalobos, who refuses to die out there on the racetrack. A lot of times he's been used up and yeeted, and yet here he is, the biggest mover of the race, up 17 positions according to timing and scoring right now. And that's what the PGR 500 is all about. That's what these races are all about. They're going to separate the boys from the men in who wants it out there on the racetrack, and those drivers are going to find a way to get it done. And you can see the grit and determination from these guys a little bit further in the back, like the 45. However, you're talking about these guys at the front. I think Joshua McCullough, to your point as well, they have just been absolutely untouchable at times out there. We've seen that bottom lane able to generate some momentum, but it always seems like just as they get it going, that's when the caution flag shows its ugly face. Nonetheless, this is going to be an epic, thrilling finish. In the words of Phil Collins, I can feel it coming in the air tonight.
All right, here we go. Pace car is going to make the left turn for the final time here tonight. Green flag back in the air for Nathan Harper. 2 laps to go at Daytona, and it's a great restart for the 4 car. Again, he'll execute the teamwork here as he's going to jump right up in front of the 14 to Joshua McCullough. And I think that Joshua is going to stay very loyal. I don't think you'll see him make a move until maybe off of turn 4 on the coming to the checkered flag. I don't think you'll see anything, at least not this lap, though. Meanwhile, on the bottom, Adam Garza, Landon Velicki, they're trying to get connected. The high side continues to get together more and more cars as the bottom starts to fade. And they're going to pull 3, 4, 5, 6 clear down the super stretch. Who's going to be the first car to jump out and try to lead the bottom?
Who's it going to be for right now? They are single file on the high side of the racetrack. Big time move there from the top shelf. Looks like that 30 machine there is going to be the first Toyota in line. However, they might not have enough momentum as we come through the tri-oval into the Geico restart zone. Barty has that white flag in the air. We are racing back to the checkered flag, Austin.
Just one lap to go to decide it all. Who is going to win heat race number 2 in the road to PGR 500? Whoa, watch out back. Looked like Miles was trying to hang on, but look at the run on the bottom. Here comes the 45. Julio Villalobos. Can he get clear here down the super stretch? He's trying. Oh, man, they're going to hold even here into turn 3. The 45's all over the place. They continue to wreck out back, and Cattell pushing for all he's worth right now. Who's got more will to get back to the checkered flag first? Final time off of turn 4. Cattell, one more big push. Now they get offset. Cattell to the middle. Up front, Nathan Harper. Joshua McCullough, drag race to the line.
Side by
Just looks
side.
like, did Harper get it? Harper
Harper's
did
gonna
by
back that
1/100th
run.
of a second.
Are you kidding me? And I'm sorry to talk over you there, Austin, at the end. I can't believe what we just seen on the final lap as Villalobos becomes possessed and hits the turbocharger towards the front. As multiple cars behind us throughout the course of that lap saw their doom as they went up in smoke. Cars going over on their lid, and then you're talking about a thousandth of a second, I believe, at the start-finish line between the two guys that wrote the blueprint on how to get it done here in this race, Harper and McCullough. In fact, on our side of the spectrum, our timing and scoring has zeros across the board. That's how close it was at the stripe. Are you kidding me?
Extremely close. And I'll tell you what, I said that if Josh was going to make a move, he wasn't going to make it until off of turn 4, coming to the checkered flag. And so we'll talk about who made what transfer positions here in just a moment. Nathan Harper, though, going to bring it around to celebrate, and a well-deserved one. You see some damage there on the right front after the checkered flag, but I mean, him and Joshua McCullough, that's what you do in these heat races, Matt. You come in here, you dominate, and then you make it just a race between you and the other guy you've been working with at the end. They finish 1-2. Both are going to be advancing to the duels. And for Nathan Harper now, he is also going to be $60 richer. So as he continues to burn it down, we'll take a look at your official results here, and then we'll go back and look at that last lap here tonight as Nathan Harper, again, your race winner. Joshua McCullough brings home second, and it's going to be Bryce Dullivan finishing in the third and final podium position here tonight. Brandon Cattell finishes in fourth, and the final transfer position into the duels here from Heat Race 2, it's going to go to Adam Garza in the 8 machine. And tell you what, he was flying on the last lap, thought he was going to have a shot to win it. Doesn't quite work out that way for Julio Villalobos, but nonetheless, he still finishes in 6th, and so he will transfer to the Last Chance Qualifier. Michael Mitchum will as well. He finishes 7th. Jason Wallet back in 8th with Landon Velicky back in 9th. Ron Morris Jr. rounds out the top 10. Derek Farr in 11th with Stephen Miles 12th. And Michael Lockwood will be the final car to transfer to the next round as he will move on to the Last Chance Qualifier. Michael Barksdale finishes 14th. Devin Hernandez back in 15th. Alex Coffey, tough break, especially at the end. He's going to end up 16th and will not have a chance to advance unless his lap were to hold. Because remember, he did set the pole lap here tonight for Heat Race 2. Gordon Spain finishes back in 17th. It's going to be Devin Ray finishing back in the 18th spot here tonight. And rounding out the top 20 and 19, Tucker McClendon. And looks like Seth Hollum, after a brief run or a good run earlier, is going to finish back in that 20th spot. Jeff Byers finishes in 21st. Mick Eskridge 22nd with Aaron Mack 23rd. And then back to the 24th spot, you've got James Portalisi, Richard Elliott 25th, Austin Trombley 26th, Crystal King 27th with Andrew Zonto back in 28th. And rounding out the final couple of positions here tonight in Heat Race 2, Miles Bagley in 29th and Quinn Davis rounding out the top 30. All right, so we'll go back and actually take a look at this last lap one more time here before we wrap things up here tonight. And man, what a crazy one it was. I'll tell you what, Matt, checkers here, this was exciting stuff coming to the checkered flag. Normally we'd be saying checkers or wreckers, but for Joshua McCullough and Nathan Harper, they kept it very clean, very respectful. And off of turn 4, watch this here. We'll go to TV3. Josh was waiting and waiting as long as he possibly could. As Cattell splits, Josh realizes it's just him and Harper, and he dives to the inside. And boy, Matt, you said it was zeros across the board. Well, just look how close it looks here from the slow-mo replay. Right at the line, Harper's going to get it by, it looks like, man, not even quite, more than maybe a front bumper. I mean, that's just how close it was. And officially, I think the official gap was either 100th or just less than 100th of a second.
Absolutely incredible stuff. I mean, you cannot script a finish like that in Hollywood as good as what we've seen here tonight on PGR Esports. And big-time confidence and momentum builders here, especially for Harper and Joshua McCullough. I would love them to be able to carry, that mojo they got brewing right now all the way through into the 500. And for, the other drivers, it really, my heart breaks for Julio Villalobos. I mean, that was an absolute monster of a lap he had going until Daytona things happened. But, I mean, all in all, I mean, the drama, the suspense, Daytona delivered here once again, and certainly the quality of the competition. The cream rises to the top, and Nathan Harper puts on, like I said earlier in the race, one of the best performances I have seen from him thus far, and rightfully the winner here this evening.
Absolutely. We do have one question in the chat. Says, why was Quinn Davis in the pit so long? I believe she may have had some sort of damage in a wreck that we had before the checkered flag. I saw that name actually pop up in our data that had trouble. Not sure exactly what the trouble was, but either way, that could have certainly explained it. Damage that may have potentially ended her race. And so, again, an unfortunate break there. But, I mean, as for tonight, we got 2 extremely exciting heat races. Tomorrow we're going to get 3 more, and then Thursday we're going to get the final 3. So, I mean, overall tonight we saw a lot of great racing. We saw some chaos, and I think every driver now is going to know what to expect tomorrow night and Thursday night. So that's just about going to wrap things up. As always, thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed. That's it for me, Austin Green, alongside Matt Mettler on PGR Esports. We'll see you tomorrow night. Until then, have a good night.